Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Co-Star, the official newspaper of the Borough, Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on January 3rd, 2023, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Take roll call. Councilman Brennan?
Here.
Councilwoman McKinney? Here. Mayor Buckapusco?
Here.
Councilwoman Rondinero? Here. Councilman Levis?
Here. Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, first responders, and their families. Thank you. Our first item is a workshop discussion. Does anyone have anything in particular they would like to discuss? From my end, the only thing I have is we continue to work with our engineers and actually both engineers from last year and this year to try to get the DEP approval for the bathrooms, so that's still being worked on. And other than that, I really don't have anything else. But I would like to take this opportunity, for those of you who don't know it, our media mogul is going to be leaving us, John Sabia, as of March 3rd, and I would just like to thank him for all the things that he did for the borough.
I just wanted to chime in there too, and like to add my best wishes and sincere gratitude to John Sabia. I've always been impressed by how John was able to cover the many events in town, creating video for the borough and businesses with abounding energy and positivity, sometimes on rollerblades. During COVID lockdown, he was often the voice of the borough for us at home, with updates, social media outreach, and figuring out how to create mayor and council Zoom meetings. And he wore more hats at that time than I think we ever will know. Thankfully, as he moves forward in his career and passion and his nonprofits, we will still see him and his family around town at events and enjoy his videography for the library's future events. Thank you, John.
I also want to add that you're going to be sorely missed. Those are big shoes to fill, and you've done a wonderful job in the last 4 years that you've been here, and we're going to miss you greatly. Thank you for all your hard work.
John, I'm going to miss your Energizer Bunny vibe. Totally.
Still going.
Absolutely, still going. Thank you. Thanks for everything you've done. Best of luck.
John, I've known you since before you were even a member of this borough. When I was on the Harbor Commission, it's been good getting to know you, and you've done a fantastic job, and I applaud you for your efforts that you've done for the borough.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I don't have anything else for workshop. Petitions, April.
I did not receive any petitions.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. Are we going to pass on those, or we have? Okay. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes.
You want to do it now or next meeting?
Next meeting.
All right, we'll do it at the next
Okay.
meeting. Technical difficulties. So we can do that at the next meeting. Reports of council. I always screw this up. Council President Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None of my committees or commissions met since the last meeting. I don't really have much to report. I hope everybody had a happy Mardi Gras. And I'm trying out my parade outfit as if there's anybody who's not aware. The parade's this Sunday. I just checked the weather. It's not going to rain. It's not going to snow. Let's keep it on the bright side there. So I know that, you know, well, I was thinking about this. One of the things we always do is we wait till after the parade to thank DPW and the police department for everything they do. I know you're working on it now, so I want to thank you right now for everything you've done already and everything you're going to do this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to having a wonderful event. You know, and it wouldn't happen without you guys and everything you do for us. So thank you. And that's my report.
committee meeting is actually this Thursday at the library at 6:30. Shade Tree Commission, letters did go out to 31 homeowners that there are questionable trees on their properties. So there was a state certified arborist that came and did an audit of all the trees, and it was paid for by a state grant, and they looked at all the trees and found 31 properties that need to take down the trees. So if you have gotten a letter and you're questioning that or have any questions or concerns, you could reach out to either myself or the mayor or the business administrator, and we can answer any questions that you may have. Recreation update, basically they're finishing up basketball now, getting ready for the Easter egg hunt. March 25th is the Easter egg hunt at 11 a.m. And they are still looking out for volunteers if you want to help out with that. All the fitness and yoga classes are going very well at Taylor Pavilion. Senior bingo event went really well. That was a really good turnout. And the Friendly Sons of the Shillelagh is looking to sponsor a senior lunch in April. Wellington Estates and Tower Lodge want to also help out with that senior luncheon. And so they're going to get back to Barry if anybody's interested in that, signing up for that senior lunch event. And then a couple things around the school. The St. Rose Grammar School and High School are marching in the marching in the parade this Sunday. St. Rose High School boys basketball last night beat their semifinal game. They beat a team from Hamilton, South Jersey, and they're in the final state non-public B game tomorrow. So prayers to St. Rose High School boys that they win, so that they will win the state champs. And that's tomorrow. I'll keep you posted. Belmar Elementary Drama Club production of Beauty and the Beast is March 10th and 11th. Look out or sign up or pick up tickets for that production. And just a quick note, Belmar Skate Park, things are moving forward. We had a meeting with the Belmar Skate Park Committee last week with Business Administrator Keene. We're still in the infancy of getting things either planned, working on fundraising, figuring out how we're going to get our fundraising. So we're still in the ground level of the skate park, but things are moving forward. There's a lot of momentum and excitement, and we're getting going on that. So I will keep you posted when I know updates on that. And thank you. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rondenaro.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that the mayor is going to fill us in on the library board meeting, but I did want to mention that our library has, for Black History Month, the website had a spotlight on Belmar African Americans. This week is on Dr. Walter S. McAfee, a famous scientist who worked on the Project Diana. So it is worth a read. Please, belmarlibrary.org. The Belmar Housing Authority has its meeting March 6th at 5:15. I spoke with Executive Director Paul DeSantis this morning. The Housing Authority received almost $100,000 from HUD's Capital Fund. This will likely be earmarked for the scaffolding and the mesh needed on the exterior of the building to prevent bricks from falling and further cracks in the facade. The lowest bid for that phase 1 is $91,000, so that should cover it. The facade repair in total will likely be $365,000. In addition to this facade, we have a hot water heater in need of replacement, and the elevator is in need of modernization as it is past its life expectancy. Mr. DeSantis and I discussed continuing conversation with Congressman Smith's office. So when Congress passes the 2023 budget, we can apply for the entire cost of the repairs. I'm awaiting a follow-up call from Congressman Smith's Deputy Chief of Staff to request what we need to have ready to go when that opens up. So we're first out of the gate in requesting funding for our Belmar citizens.
Thank you. Councilman Levis.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'll report on the Harbor Commission. We had our meeting 2 weeks ago. One of the things that came up was pilings. There's about 7 or 8 pilings within the marina that we need to replace. It's been a challenge up until now because not enough were broken. Getting the barge in even to fix them, they want to have a number of pilings that they're going to do. They're not going to come in just to do one. So we have our engineer working on a scope for that project that we'll put out to bid. So it'll be a few weeks before we get that scoped and we can actually see what the cost for that is going to be. And from a rec standpoint, today is the last day for early registration for Tri-Shore Little League. So they're gonna have, if you're in Belmar and you wanna play softball or t-ball, this is where you would go. 5 and 6 year old co-ed t-ball, 4-year-old co-ed t-ball. There'll be pony baseball and softball for 7 and 8 year olds. Minor baseball and softball for 9 and 10 year olds. Major baseball and softball for 11 and 12. And junior baseball, softball for 13 and 14. You can still register after today. The deadline's going to be March 31st. But after today, the price goes up by $25. There is a fundraiser for the piano in Piano Plaza happening Monday, March 13th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's going to be hosted at Brandel. It's $150. It's a good cause. It'd be really great to get that piano in there for the Arts Council. Belmar Dine and Discover is coming up Sunday, March 12th. $35 in advance, $40 the day of. And I don't know if you heard, but there's a parade this weekend in town. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I was able to attend the library board meeting along with Councilwoman Rondinaro. The major discussion we had at that meeting was with the borough engineer and architect that have been working on replacing the windows in the library. If you've taken a look at them, they're in need of replacement, but they're not what you would call your standard window. They have to be custom designed. So this is starting the process for the library board. They have already checked out certain window manufacturers, the main ones being, like Pella, Marvin, and I think there are 1 or 2 others. But the process is going to begin. It's a step-by-step thing because they need to the contractor, whoever does that, will have to erect the scaffolding and so on and so forth. So, this will all be subject to bid, but they are starting to draw up the specs, and I think very soon we'll see something coming before the council on that. Other than that, there is another thing happening. There's the Irish Soda Bread Contest, March 16th at 5:30 in the Taylor Pavilion. Anyone interested can register online at belmarlibrary.org. And other than that, I believe that's all I have.
Next, we have public session. If anyone would like to comment on a resolution listed on the agenda, please step forward and state your name and address.
Sorry.
Thank you for all your help. Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue. You hear okay?
Oh, I gotta hit the button, I guess. Sorry.
Turn the switch on? Test 1, 2. Yeah, it sounds like that. Actually, I have a question on this resolution number 2023-67. This is a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Belmar, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, authorizing the execution of any and all documents necessary for participation in the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. I remember there was discussion about, especially about the, I think it's an 18% interest rate that we charge on delinquent water bills. This was back at the beginning of the pandemic. I know that all regulated public utilities, electric and gas and so on, they had already moved forward with this thing, and people could not be evicted because of non-payment of utility bills. At the time, the response was from mayor and council is that nobody's being evicted or I guess there weren't going to be any tax sales on delinquent water bills. And I'm just curious, has anybody's water actually been turned off in town? This appears to me to be a little bit late. I mean, the resolution mentions the pandemic, and that's officially over now. But I'm just curious, has anybody's water actually been turned off for non-payment of bills?
I'm not aware of any, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, we haven't.
Okay.
Okay, good. And I'm glad about that. Like I said, at the time, my biggest concern was this, okay, people can't pay their bills, but then dinging them 18% on top of that, that was kind of cold, I thought. In any case, I have a question here on apparently what this will do would be able to get some help from the state to pay some of these water bills. The resolution says here, this is item number 2, and I don't know about the 4th paragraph down. It says the mayor of the borough administrator, and other reasonably necessary personnel are hereby authorized and directed to be and is hereby authorized to execute the contract for services with the Low-Income Household Water Assistant Program, New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. The date sharing agreement between the State of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs and the Borough of Belmar, and any other documents necessary for participation in the Low-Income Household Water Assistant Program. Does anybody, what is this, these agreements were not attached or available for the public to review. But I have a question here. Does anybody know what this date sharing agreement actually is? Does that set calendar dates as to where people can apply for this help? Exactly what is that?
I haven't seen any of these documents in terms of this resolution. I don't know if we've gotten them or if they come after we do the resolution.
Yeah, no, Mayor, I believe what we have to do, we have to enter into this contract with DCA in order for any of our residents to be eligible. So once we adopt the resolution and contract with DCA, then we go through the rest of the documentation to make sure if anybody's eligible for it, they're able to participate.
Excuse me, are we aware of any residents that are eligible for this?
Not that I know of, but what we have to do in order for anybody to qualify, we have to contract with DCA first, and that's what we're doing tonight, is adopting this resolution to put us into contract, so if anybody is eligible, they can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I guess it's a technicality, but it says a date sharing agreement. Does that mean that this might perhaps be retroactive to the beginning of the pandemic? And what I'm saying is that where does it begin? Where does it end?
I'm not sure of that. Again, this just allows us to participate, so we'll find out all that information. Once we adopt this resolution tonight, we can find out all that information.
So it allows residential ratepayers installment plans for arrearages occurring between March 9, 2020 and March 15, 2022.
Okay, so this could actually, would be retroactive pretty much towards the beginning of the pandemic, or when a pandemic was like I said, you know, to use the attorney's expression here, it sounds like the train had left the station some time ago. And, you know, in as much as the town did not terminate water service, you know, what's really to be gained by this, I guess is what I'm saying. I could just see, and I'm not sure whether everybody's aware, we have a socialized community water system here. And not that I'm concerned about abuse, however, we have places in town here, you know, the common bungalow in back of a main home may not have its own water meter. However, the person that lives in the back bungalow may very well, you know, be living only on Social Security, but the people in the front house are living large. Is that person going to be able to get reimbursement for the water that was supplied to the whole premises? I could just see this as being a real nightmare to figure out. And especially, there's many apartment houses here in town have multiple dwellings with multiple classes of people living there with only one water meter. The town tried to, I guess about 2 years ago, try to even that out a bit by charging, I believe it's $89 per habitable dwelling. I guess what I'm saying here is if we really haven't evicted anybody, we haven't turned anybody's water off, is this even worthwhile going through the motions?
The question I would have is whether or not we were mandated to do this. I don't know if we were given an option to participate in this program or not. It may have just been, again, I'm not sure how we got to this.
Yeah, I mean, the way we looked at it, it's not gonna hurt anybody, so we figured if somebody could take advantage of it, we were gonna make sure they were able to take advantage of it, that's all it was.
Yeah.
There's an application process, so once we do this resolution and we go to the next step, there's a notice that we post on our website that explains what the application process is and how to apply, and then the homeowner would have to apply to the state, and I'm sure provide some form of documentation, and then they'll let us know how many applications they get.
Is this something they just recently advised us of? I mean,
It came out last year.
okay.
You had spoken earlier about the senior facility. No doubt those people, it's my understanding that they would probably meet the low-income requirements here. Is there the potential here that their water bill, and I think they do get a water bill, I didn't check that, but that they perhaps can be reimbursed for having paid that water bill? Is that how this would work out?
I don't think we really know at this point. We would have to actually look at the details of the program to see what the what the water assistance program provides. I mean, obviously we don't have that in front of us at this point.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: I don't have any objection to this, and like the business administrator said, it doesn't appear to be any downside to it. It's just that I guess about the only potential downside I see that could result out of this is relationships between landlords and tenants. They work those things out among themselves, and if a tenant makes an application and he's actually getting water through a meter that his landlord is paying the bills for, this, I should say, this could potentially be a major headache of trying to figure out who owes, who's going to pay what, or perhaps even abuse, where, like I said, you have an individual living in a bungalow in the back, but yet, people in the front house are living large, but yet the tenant gets given the water bill to get reimbursed. Is there any sort of limit on this?
It does say that it's limited to the water sewer bill holder. So the person, whoever's name is on the water sewer bill would be eligible to apply.
Oh, and that's typically
It's the homeowner.
Okay, the homeowner. Okay, I don't have any objections on this, I just, guess, like I said, I'd like to see the details of it, because we have a unique, our water sewer department is not run like your typical public utility. It's been socialized over the years, and quite truthfully, I don't think anybody would want to defend it, but no objection from me.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any comments on the resolutions?
Tom Volker, 527 8th Avenue, Belmar. And this is just on the resolutions, correct?
Right.
There's one that 2023-01, Director of Special Operations.
Well, that's an ordinance. We can
Oh, okay.
just give us
See you in public.
1 minute, and we'll be there.
It's good exercise.
Any other comments on the resolutions?
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
Motion.
Second?
Okay. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Next is second reading and public hearing on ordinance 2023-1. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 11 Personnel eliminating the position of Director of Special Operations. This is open for public comment. If anyone would like to speak, please step forward and state your name and address.
I think it's a quick question. My name and address again?
No, I don't think so.
What functions do the Director of Special Operations perform, and where will those functions go to? That's it.
Well, I believe the functions were laid out in the ordinance, and we have that here. It was basically, it says, consolidate tourism efforts as it pertains to the borough's beach, marina downtown districts, coordination and oversight of all special events organized and held in the borough, coordination with certain borough professionals, act as a liaison with community groups, including but not limited to the Belmar business partners, and under the supervision and control of the mayor. And such duties shall be specifically assigned by the appointing authority. So those were basically the duties of the person. Those duties will be actually spread amongst myself, Mr. Kane, and Mr. Walsh, who is my confidential secretary at this point. So between three of us, we'll be covering those duties.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Motion?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, next is first reading and introduction of ordinance 2023-02. This is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 28, Borough of Fire Prevention. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondenaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, Next is first reading and introduction of ordinance 2023-03, an ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 11 personnel. This is amending the salary schedules. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckle-Fusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondinero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
And last one is ordinance 2023-04. It's an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckle-Fusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondinero?
Yes.
And Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Right, next is public comment section. If anyone would like to speak, please step forward, state your name and address.
Linda Sharkus. This is public session, right?
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure, 400 4th Avenue, Belmar. I too would like to thank John Sabia for all the great work he's done in the community. We have magnificent videos of the businesses that really showcase our town quite nicely. And the work videoing all the meetings has been phenomenal to keep people informed of what's going on. And I just hope we can find somebody that'll continue in that capacity. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, John. Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's get the done.
Well, he stood up first.
Go ahead.
Three of us.
Tom Volker, 527 8th Avenue, Belmar. Just a couple questions. One, I took a look at the traffic plan between Main Street and Route 35. And the question there, I saw where there's going to be a post with a button so that whoever's crossing can stop the traffic. It didn't look like it was on both sides of the street though.
It is.
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't know if this ever had been asked before, but on the list of bills, when you approve the list of bills that April has, is it possible to take one or two bigger items that are in there and mention them, just for our edification as to, not every one, maybe one or two. Consider that.
Yeah, it would be maybe logistically a little hard because we don't have the detail. We would have to get the actual, like purchase orders and know in advance what we were going to,
Yeah.
what would be interesting or not, but.
And the level of detail wouldn't be too deep, it wouldn't have to be too deep, like, this is for the work we're doing on 10th Ave.
Right. It is hard to tell sometimes when you look at
Yeah.
that where
If you can,
it's being done.
some of it.
Okay, if we can identify something like that, we'll try to point that out.
Congratulations on the HUD grant of $99,927.25. Congratulations, nice work.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there's a lot more expense to be, where you're gonna need help on. But it's nice to see them getting the attention.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire Hayner, 18th B. Simple question. All of the information for this meeting is all posted online, the minutes, the agenda, all the documents and everything. Is there any reason that for the planning board and the zoning that they're not documented online? I know it was during Zoom and it was great, but I'm retired, I can walk into April and bug her as much as I want, but the person that's working in the city, going in at 7 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 7 o'clock at night, doesn't have that opportunity. And if it's a case of too much disk space being taken up, delete them after the, resolution is passed? Just a thought, because,
I think that was discussed once before, a couple of months ago. I think some of it had to do with the size of the documents too.
Right, and the applicants would have to agree, because it has their email address, their phone number, and things like that on the application. They have to agree to allow us to post it on the website, and then their professionals would have to be able to provide everything in a format that we could post it.
Okay, just food for thought, just something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guess not.
Dan Lane, 14th Avenue, Belmar. Couple questions. How much are the people that are coming to the seafood festival being charged? And where is that money going to? What borough accounts?
Okay, I don't know that offhand, but they charged a different amount based on what kind of tent they have. In other words, a food vendor is charged a certain amount, and I forget what the other category is. Maybe Kevin, you can fill in.
Yeah, I think it's divided between craft vendors and food vendors.
Okay.
And there's different, it's based on the size of tents and all that. We can get all that information to you. John Walsh has all that.
All right, just curious. And as far as the money from the restaurateurs, what borough accounts are those ticket monies going into?
That is not really a borough-sponsored event.
Okay.
That's an event that's run by a marketing company.
Okay,
So the
because
borough does not get
there's
any
nothing
of that
doing.
money.
Okay. Also, the status on the EMS building,
Okay.
because it's just been sitting there stagnant. Any ideas of when work's going to be started on that?
We've had a discussion with our engineer about that. I don't know exactly when they're going to start the cleanup. I know it has been assessed. I think they know what has to be done, but I'm not sure what the time span is on when they will actually start that cleanup. Kevin, do you have any idea?
Our engineers have met with the LSRP. They're currently have monitoring wells in there, and I know they're going through the monitoring process and trying to figure out exactly what the game plan is going forward. Our new engineers are coming up to speed on that.
All right, because the only reason I'm thinking is that front end, you've got two rigs that have been sitting out in the weather. If you eliminate that front end, extend two bays out to it, you could put those in there. You don't have to worry about replacing those every couple of years due to the weather. Okay. Also, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think they would let us put anything on that property at this
Okay.
point.
All right. And Councilwoman Kinney spoke up about the skateboard park. Are they going to plan to keep the plans that were put in place or the design that was given last year? Are they going to keep that in place or
So
what?
that was kind of a rendering of
Yeah.
what we were hoping to get,
Okay.
put there. Of course, we need to get some input on the committee as to what kind of a wish list, if you will, of specifics that they might like, and then it's gonna go to a specific person who's gonna draw all those plans out. Almost like an architectural design.
Yeah, okay.
So it has to be sealed and it has to be all, and so that's kind of our next steps, is getting those specific plans drawn up.
Okay.
And that costs money.
Oh, I
So
know.
that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah,
Still
'cause
in the
I knew it was going to
infancy.
cost money because I knew that they had put a plan into, or a design last year, and it was a certain amount. I didn't know if they were going to honor that design
We
or if
have
they're
the
going to regroup with
footprint,
it.
right?
Yeah.
That was brought
The
up at a
footprint.
council meeting
Yeah.
in the fall, right? So we know the space and the size, it's just actually, and we know we can't dig into the ground because of the land.
Right.
So those specifications we know, but the rest we're still working it.
Okay, fair enough.
But it is
It's in
moving.
process.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you.
excited about it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. Drew Fromkin, 201 South Lake Drive. Nice to see you, Mayor, Council, gentlemen. First, since it's my first time at the mic, since your new administration isn't, I want to thank you all for your tremendous work on behalf of this town. You put in a lot of time, and it's not an easy job, so we can start with that. And to these two guys, they have the toughest job, honestly, from my perspective, so thank you for all your great work. So it's a young administration. I'm sure you feel the honeymoon coming to a close very rapidly as things come together for you. But, first, I think I just want to say that there are obviously some very serious matters in this town. I love the optimism and the smiles, and everyone's getting along really well, which I think is a great thing. That's important. Everybody's got to have that culture. But at the same time, some of these issues are much greater than the 31 trees we found in people's yards. So I'm really hoping over time, I know you're tackling the bathroom issues, there'll be others like that, but then there are some quality of life issues and things that are really affecting people around this town, and I'm sure they won't get better without a lot of effort and a lot of energy. I won't take your time tonight on all those things. You've been very kind in connecting with me a little bit as you were coming into your role. Can you just help me understand, and maybe there's the best way to reach out to you if there are any matters that we're trying to connect with you on?
Email is the best way. Okay. I will readily admit, though, every day I get tons of emails, sure. And I'm trying to respond as quickly as I can to people, but I know inevitably someone is going to fall off the radar. Okay. So basically what I tell people is, don't feel like you're bothering me, just send me another email. Okay. Because it's so easy to get lost in the whole litany of emails that I have. And no matter what system I try to prioritize, things keep falling between the cracks. So it's like a constant review. But I will not be offended if you send me another email and say, I sent you an email a week ago and I haven't heard anything. Okay. Well, it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? Right. But I would ask that maybe you look at your junk mail, because I'm trying. Okay, when you get a chance. Well, we have no junk. Okay. No junk. Well, then, that was your issue right there, Mayor. I would have taken it. All right. But if you wouldn't mind looking, I'm just trying to reach out to you. And then on some other matters, Councilman Brennan, longstanding time as a councilman, done a great job. I know you care for the town greatly. I will say, though, I was setting you up for that just a little bit, but very concerned about the seafood festival. And I will never speak for others because they should come and speak for themselves, but I will tell you that, I'm representing probably the majority of the people around the area in Silver Lake. Historically, and I've owned my house longer than this recent period, when the seafood festival was there, the level of disruption that goes on for the local neighborhood there is quite significant. It happens both from a safety perspective, people coming through town that aren't typically there, but the level of the individuals, meaning in terms of the breadth of the number of individuals coming through there, historically was very difficult. And then given the rain in May and so on, the entire surrounding area gets trashed. That entire lawn out by the gazebo is messed up for months on end. I think the police and DPW have a tremendous effort to try to keep things under wraps there. And while it may or may not have been the right decision in the end, that will be determined. I think having it downtown or in another part where it was a more commercial environment versus a local residential environment was a much better decision. And I was just sort of curious, maybe this is not the appropriate time. If it is, I think it'd be helpful to the residents to understand what the Tourism Commission did to assess the value of having it in one part of town versus another, and why the statements have been that this is a much better place for the sea, other than seeing the ocean, that this is a better place for the seafood festival, and how it's better for our commercial establishments, given it's down there.
Well, I can speak to that.
Thank you.
Mr. Fromkin, I can tell you that the Tourism Commission took into account, number one, primarily the savings that we incurred by having it in the plaza. It's cheaper for DPW and the police department to service that site. Sure. That being said, we got a lot of feedback from the business community saying that they actually did better, in particular the restaurants at the north end of Main Street, did better when the seafood festival was at Silver Lake. They did better business. For one, why I couldn't tell you, but that was what they told us. The consensus was, considering that to move it back to the other site. And understandably, we all took your concerns into account. That's exactly the concern, the traffic and the amount of people and the cost and the effort of cleaning up. We're going to do everything we can to be proactive about making sure that those areas are handled and that we don't see any inconvenience for the residents who do live over there. But based on the feedback we got from the business community, remember the Tourism Commission is made up of all mercantile licensed members. They are all businessmen in town. So the fact that the business community was saying we like it better over there, that actually carried a lot of weight.
Okay, well, I think that they are feeling exactly the way we are. We want it over there. And I would argue that from a tax base, I'd like to look at it, but I'd say the tax base in the north part of Belmar probably rivals any of our businesses in town. So I think in terms of constituency, maybe in the future we can have a conversation with both parties and see what's valuable there. I do appreciate greatly, though, that you're going to look out hard and everyone's going to look out for the safety and the residents there, because it really is disruptive and concerning. And I would say in this day and age, and I know this gets filmed, so I won't go far, we're in a different world today, and things happen fast. So I appreciate everybody in this room and how they're thinking about it. I'll just make one last statement, because I don't like to grandstand here for too long. The goose thing is wiping us out down on Silver Lake. Now, I know this is not unusual. I have my younger dog is starting to look for overtime pay. He's the only reason why my house is not as bad as, unfortunately, some other residents. I know there are certain things we can do and not do, but I would just implore the council and the mayor to just be vocal. If you are planning to do certain things, or you're thinking about this and you're thinking about options in the context of the broader Silver Lake dilemma, it'd be very helpful to understand that, because last thing I'll just say is it's not only the unsightly issues, there are dogs getting sick all over the place from ingesting the poop. So.
Well, let me just say this, I've done a lot of reading on this. There's really no easy answer. Do what they did in Spring Lake, which is gather up, a certain number of them and have them, taken somewhere and get killed. Yeah, I mean, so that's off the table as far as a solution.
Why is that off the table?
I just don't think that that's necessary. I think there are other actions that can be taken to kind of lessen that impact. The other thing, quite frankly, the geese like short grass, but I'm not going to tell people in front of their homes to leave their grass long. But that is one of the attractions for geese. That's why they go around the lake, because the grass is cut short. But if you look online and you see hints to homeowners, they basically say keep your grass long, and you may not attract the geese. Obviously, we have no way of preventing them from crossing the street. So, and I don't think we're going to keep the grass long around the lake. So, that takes, for the borough, that takes that option off the table. There is a way of doing something, boiling the eggs to prevent the eggs from hatching, and I believe there might be an effort starting up to do that. But other than that, I don't know that there's anything in particular, unless you have some ideas as to
I
short of killing them.
Mayor Buffalo, as I think you already know.
What are your ideas?
Would you like me to list them now?
Sure.
Well, I think part of the issue is you can't solve small problems outside of the context of a broader plan. And I think Silver Lake is lacking a broader plan in total. The goose problem is one minor but very annoying and now potentially deadly aspect of what we're dealing with there. But the entire lake environment has, as I think we've conveyed with each other, has been in disrepair. I understand there are budgetary limitations, and I understand that there are a number of things that could limit what could ultimately be done. But what I do know is without planning, and with the new administration, this is a great opportunity for that to occur, nothing will ever happen. Now, having said that, I think the goose problem is one aspect of a deteriorating lake environment. Some of these geese are transient, some are residents, and what I do know is that the shore environment, in terms of the lake shore, has a lot to do with how these geese move from the lake to the land. And as you can see in other environments, in other lakes, there are walls, there are borders, there are netting that goes into the lake. You can have fauna along the lake that changes the movement of these geese. And there are winter geese, there are summer geese, they can fly, they can't fly, and all those things have to be taken into consideration. I would argue that the shore environment has to be changed drastically to stop those geese from coming in and out of the lake. And then I believe that there are other ways to stop the geese from crossing roads, moving on properties. I think the oiling is helpful, but the size of the goose population is so large now that I think you have to dissuade the geese, funny enough, from choosing our lake versus other environments. And so I have more detail on that. I've done some research too on things that can be done to dissuade geese from nesting in the off season as well, which will slow them from coming in the winter because they don't want to come anymore. Also, if we could entice the swans to stay instead of heading down to the nicer looking Lake Como these days, that maybe that would also dissuade the geese from nesting in some of those areas. So,
I mean, part of the issue too is, you know, and this goes back to Sandy, obviously raising the berm around the lake to protect the houses that are around the lake didn't you know, help the issue, but obviously when you're balancing the context of, well, do we protect the, you know, the homes that are, you know, next to the lake, or are we worried about, you know, the geese that are there? We're always going to go with, you know, do things that are going to protect the homeowners. Now, having said that, I think, you know, you have some good ideas, and I would probably urge you to go to the Environmental Commission meetings, because that would be really the more appropriate place to discuss those issues, because they're concerned with all kinds of, and I actually sent them a request to look at that geese problem too. But you know, I think they certainly would welcome any ideas that
Mr. Mayor, I
be
can tell you, at the last Environmental Commission meeting, one of the things they did was set up committees to, rather than have the entire commission working on one issue or two issues at a time, subcommittees so they can address more things. And one of the most important ones they set up was a Silver Lake Water Quality Committee. I know that Ed Lippincott, the chair, has already talked to a couple of consultants that work with the state about what we can do with that, and it includes the geese. I can tell you that Mayor McGovern, who was the one who took care of the dog and actually personally did a lot of the oiling of eggs back in the day, is coming to talk to the Environmental Commission at the next meeting to talk about how they can get more volunteers involved to do that kind of thing. One of the things they're definitely looking at is the concept of a living shoreline, if it's applicable to Silver Lake. That would definitely address the problem with the grass is low and attractive to the geese. And again, it boils down to what can we do with what we've got. There are grants out there for that kind of thing. Yeah. We're going to be looking into that, and I agree with the mayor. You should come to the next Environmental Commission meeting. It's the second Thursday of the month, 6:30, downstairs at the library. Yep. You know, they'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you. First and foremost, I think you know I reached out to you a while back to be on the committee. And I was 4 months short of being a permanent resident, so I got hatcheted on that one. But going forward, you know, you should know, and in fact, I did hear only last week that those committees were open, or 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry. Whenever you had the last thing, I was traveling on business, so I didn't have an opportunity to reach out, but I'd still be very open to participate if you have room. And as you know, I also spoke with Ed for probably 5-6 years now already, and have interacted with him about the concept of public and private partnership. One of the things I've been a little surprised about is even personally, I've offered myself, and I know others, but certainly myself, who would be willing to set up and anchor some of that investment at the lake, but yet I've had nobody respond in any way for the last 5 years on that offer, which has shocked me, honestly. So I'll state it again here publicly that I think there are people here who want to step up, see the quality of life there go well, not have our dogs sick or sitting in swarms of bugs come May. And I believe, and I've also done some work on my own to actually get some quotes around what it would take to fix this lake, and it's actually shockingly not that expensive. So I'd be happy to share that with everybody. I know you're all open to it, and I'm not here to catch anybody, but I think if you're open to connecting on those things, I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you.
All right.
I do know that former Mayor McGovern did mention that he would be happy to oil the eggs again this year, so I'm sure that's what he'll talk to the Environmental Commission about.
He actually assists us every single year.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't take the euthanizing off the table. I know that that's abhorrent to some people, but at the same time, you know, there's a lot of sickness that goes, I mean, you would have no problem rounding up rats.
I agree with you 100%.
So my only point is, before we just throw it out, I think if it's part of a plan and we're unable, I think we should try a lot of things first. But if we get to a point where it's just greasing the eggs, it's not keeping thousands of birds from flying in the winter for 8 months, it may just be part of a problem that I think many towns are having to face. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Any other comments? Please state your name.
John Savy, 11th Ave. Level up. I just wanted to personally say thank you so much for everyone on the dais here today for everything. In the last 4 years, I don't really know what to say. It's been a blessing and an honor and a privilege to work for the town. I am a Belmartian by heart. My family's been here for 70 years. So I'm not leaving, and I really appreciate you all at home and here. And thank you so much for the honor of working for Belmar.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much.
Any other comments?
Mark Sewer, 3rd Avenue, Belmar. I just want to open up a dialogue about what's going on right on our front porch with the whales washing up. It's a really horrible thing. I've been reading for months on this stuff and talking to marine biologists and driving to South Jersey and speaking with people, going to their meetings. They just had a meeting last night. I don't want to go into the wind stuff down there. I just want to ask that the council takes time to read, daily. Take an hour of your time and read the new stuff. We just lost a whale last night, and we're losing porpoises. It's an ongoing thing right here. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna blame anything. The Mammal Stranding Center, they're doing their best they can, and they're overseen by NOAA, and it's really happening on our front doorstep. Manasquan last Monday. Does it take a whale to wash up on Belmar to get some action going here? I'm just asking, keep reading on this stuff, watch it as it's going, and please take a look at this moratorium. We need time. And if we can just get on board, I have a list of, it went from 10 to 30 mayors in a week that signed on board with this. Please at least take a look at it. Please sign it so it gives us more time to investigate and see what's going on. That's all I'm asking.
I will say 2 things. Number one, that letter was not sent to all the mayors. I've never received it.
Okay.
I don't know why I never received it. I have my ideas, but I didn't get it. It went out on January 30th. Actually, I had to search the internet today for about a half hour to find it because I hadn't seen it. But I did read the articles in the paper. And for people in the audience, I would recommend 2 things. NOAA did a fisheries media teleconference on January 18th, 2023, which has been, the transcript of that has been printed and is on their site. And it was a question and answer with different organizations in the media, CNN, the Star Ledger, USA Today, and they answer many questions about the whole issue of the sound and what effect it might have on whales. And these people are experts. They've been studying this for a long time. They know, it's hard to prove that what they're finding is most of the ones that they can do, study, do necropsy is due to vessel strikes or entanglement in gear from ships and sailing vessels. But it's really a good
They're
summary of what they do, and they even go into what they do when things in the ocean like that are built, where they have, they have observers. They require observers on ships to look out for the whales. They require observers on the structures themselves to look out for them. And these are all things that I didn't know that they do. So I think if you take a good look at that, you get a really good sense of what they're doing. I also learned from NOAA that I came across this ocean noise strategy roadmap. A lot of people have, again, I didn't know that, but, they've been studying noise in the ocean from the year 2010, right? This is not new business for them. They've been doing this for a long time. This is 144 pages, by the way. I only printed the first 5, in the executive summary.
It's a lot to read.
But yeah, and a lot of it is technical and, is beyond me. But I think they're looking at specifically the things that we're doing as human beings that interfere or could interfere with marine life, all kinds of marine life, but mostly, the whales, the dolphins, the porpoises, and things like that. And they have, they've been looking at this. They've been having meetings, and then again, these are all experts in their field, and they came up with this roadmap as to what they think should be done, going forward. And it is, it's quite impressive, really, when you look at the way they're trying to understand what's happening. I never realized it, but the ocean's a noisy place. You got boats going by. You have radar from, military thing. You have people are building things. Noises from the other animals, in the water. So there's a lot of sound occurring, in the ocean, and I think, they're committed to finding out how that sound affects all of the animals in the ocean. So, I mean, the summary is really good to look at, and that's what I suggest people to look at. When you read this, I really, and I'm only speaking for myself here, using a 60-day moratorium to me is like, it's not going to do anything, because there was another newspaper article that said that company down there, Orsted, they're not even doing sounding studies anymore. They completed that last year. They're doing soil sample tests, and there's no sound, testing going on at the present time. So, I mean, and 60 days I don't think is really enough to, these people have been studying this for over 20 years. I don't think in 60 days they're going to find out what's happening to, what's causing the whale deaths or what's not causing the whale deaths. So I stick with the science, and I think that, they definitely need to find out what's going on if they can.
Okay, well, I want to use the word hypothetical, because scientists prove hypotheses to be theories. Now, they're in a hypothesis stage for this whole thing going on here. They don't know. I'm only asking that you sign a moratorium so that the people can educate themselves and have the time to learn about it.
My position is personally, I will support anything, not support anything that endangers any of the marine animals or any other kind of marine life. Okay? But I'm not sure that moratorium is really
I'm not
doing
sure.
that.
And neither is,
You know,
I'm learning a lot of people.
it's,
The Navy has conducted tests for longer than that, so I mean, you could go back and forth and, you know.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it just also struck me that why wasn't this letter sent to more mayors? But that's neither here nor there. You know, I just think it's really not a confusing issue. It's an issue that's being studied at the present time, and I think the moratorium is just, if you want to call it, a Band-Aid on a problem that may or may not exist.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Mr. Stewart, I really appreciate your concern. We're all very concerned at the deaths of these whales, and nobody wants to see it keep happening. I'm a longtime supporter of Clean Ocean Action. I demonstrated with them during the 1980s to close the dump site, which made a huge difference. That being said, in this case, I totally disagree with their position on this issue, because I think the science definitely indicates that whatever sound is being used in the development of these wind farms is not what's damaging the whales. There was an article in today's New York Times. I found it a fascinating and really illuminating article, because I've been following this issue from the get-go. I mean, 2017 is when we saw this huge increase in the number of whales, and whales in particular, humpbacks and right whales, washing up. And that was before they ever started doing any kind of sound exploration to develop the wind farm. It was years before that. So what it turns out, I'll summarize the article. So it turns out in 2017, a couple of things happened. They raised the Bayonne Bridge. The Bayonne Bridge got raised, which allowed for much larger container ships to come in and use the ports. So we're getting way more ships coming in. That right away is a direct threat to the whales. Everything I've seen shows that NOAA says that at least 40% of the whale deaths are directly attributed to ship strikes. And the reason they can't determine what happens beyond that is because the whales don't get autopsies, they get necropsies, which means they've been dead for an extended period of time in the water, which means really figuring out what killed them is hard unless it's, you know, physical. But they can, by necropsy, look at the whale's auditory organs and see if they've been damaged by sound, and they have not found that evidence. They checked, they have not found it. But they've found many, many examples of the ships striking the whales. Another thing that has happened is during the pandemic, because of the supply chain issues, they changed the shipping routes to allow for more ships to come back and forth. And they're sailing right along the coast where they didn't sail before. That, combined with the fact that the clean water now, because the dump site is closed, and the fact that the water has warmed up because of climate change, has totally increased the whales' food supply, which brings them closer to shore, because that's where the bunker is. And it's definitely increased the whale population. With all those circumstances combined, it's pretty easy to see why the whales are dying. And what we should be doing is focusing on getting the ships to alter their behavior, to make sure that the whales aren't being killed anymore. And this whole thing that the wind farm is doing it, I think is disingenuous at best. And I really wonder who's funding those efforts, because the only people that would benefit from stopping the wind farms from being built is the fossil fuel companies that got us in this place in the first place. So I agree. I totally respect your concern, but I think you know, pointing fingers at the wind farms is not productive. It's not. And I agree with the mayor. A 2-month moratorium isn't going to make a difference for the whales. We should be doing something that's really going to make a difference.
I didn't point any fingers at anybody. I just said, allow us time to investigate and find out really what the cause is.
I heard you.
So, you know, that's all I'm asking.
Okay.
But I see your stance on it, so thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
How you doing, Mayor? Joe McAvoy, 700 Main Street. I'd just like to say a few things about the whales as well. Here's what we do know. Since 2016, 178 whale mortality events. For every dead whale documented, it's estimated that 7 more go unseen that have died. So it's an exponential problem. Fishing entanglement rise has coincided with vessel strikes, both because when a whale sonar doesn't work, it can't avoid these incidences in low visibility conditions. Now, the NOAA points out that energy surveyors aren't permitted to use levels of sonar loud enough to do harm to marine mammals. Correct?
Right.
Okay. They also were paid $500,000 by Ørsted in 2016 when all this first started. Now, some folks trust certain organizations, some folks trust the government, others don't. And many have politicized the argument like Councilman Brennan pointed out. Now, here's what no one has talked about. NATO just had an unprecedented naval operation in the North Atlantic earlier this winter, in December. 7 carrier groups, along with submarines, because of the war in Ukraine. Now, the war is held in Ukraine and Russia, but it might be held here too, because the Navy has admitted that their sonar does damage to whales. Military always holds itself to a higher standard, and they've come out and said their sonar kills whales. In January 2005, 34 whales along the North Carolina coast were found dead. So it didn't just start. It happened in January of 2005. This coincided with Navy offshore training, sonar training out of Norfolk, Virginia. That being said, I truly believe these offshore wind turbine farms were a good thing, but I was persuaded to look into the situation closer by a few folks in Belmar, including Bill Merkler, who explained what a failure they've been to Block Island, how the residents there were, where he owns another home, were bamboozled basically by this green energy agenda after believing it would be beneficial for them. Now, you mentioned the oil industry, oil and gas. Each wind turbine calls for 80 gallons of oil. All right, that's about a 10 foot by 10 foot cube, 10 by 10 by 10 cube to lubricate and cool it. You certainly can't cool them with seawater. What you have to cool with seawater, however, is the offshore substations for these projects that transfer the electricity that's produced. Over 8,000 gallons of 90-degree seawater get produced daily by these substations to harness a wind farm the size that they're talking about off Atlantic City. These substations are illegal anywhere on land and even in the Great Lakes. But in the ocean, not a problem. Now, to power them when wind isn't available, investment websites such as Energy Watch, you can look at Ørsted's earnings. All right, there were record earnings last year, but they had a net fourth quarter loss of $329 million and a $5 billion write-down of their upcoming Sunrise wind project. In that same quarter, Ørsted generated a 62% increase in its natural gas divisions. Yeah, they're green energy, but they have a natural gas division. Why? Because even green energy companies that build wind projects have to build gas backup generators to power them when wind isn't available. Or even to get the blades turning when there's minimal wind, just to get the weight of those blades turning so they can keep up with minimal wind. So they're in the business of oil and gas as well. The field emitted by metallic objects on a boat's hull will cause a shark to bite on a boat. An entire grid of cabling emitting electromagnetic frequencies along over 1,000 square miles offshore of us. What do you think that's going to do? When construction starts and 60-inch steel pilings start being driven by the thousands to support these giant salad shooters in the Atlantic flyway, not only will the birds start to disappear, but the whales will bug out of the area from this low frequency interference, and we won't see them again for a long time. The good news is that after the initial die-off and the migratory pattern adjustment, it won't be that many years until they make a comeback, because these turbines will be obsolete, possibly within a decade, and be replaced by technology that's being developed now. Plasmoidal, toroidal, quantum field energy generators. Mazda has over 100 patents on it right now, and they're almost ready to release it within the next year. They've been working in the Maldive Islands for the last 7 years on it, so the military-industrial complex doesn't steal their ideas or their scientists can't get paid off. Now, many articles call these fuel-free generators science fiction. Others say they're just months away from being proven. The folks at the CIA believe in them, as information can be found on their declassified website. Also, molten salt reactors from General Electric and Hitachi partnership are being developed, and Abilene Christian University just asked for one on its campus. So that's if they're asking for ones on college university campuses to study and experiment with it, they must be pretty safe. Now, with any new technology, transmission capacity along the grid has to expand twice as fast in the next decade. If it doesn't happen, CO2 emissions can actually increase as solar and wind projects go unapproved. There's a moratorium on new projects for solar and wind in the grid, our grid in the Northeast, which stretches from New Jersey to Illinois, until 2026, because there's a backlog. They can't tie into this grid, and our grid can't handle it. Now, when these wind projects go unapproved, with more electric cars, there'll be more demand. Now, our wonderful governor recently said from 2035 onward, only electric cars can be sold to New Jersey. So since we're on the subject of billionaires and corporate autocracy, the money keeps flowing to the top. In the past 2 years, we created more billionaires than in all the prior years combined. And at the same time, over 300 million families have sunk below the poverty level worldwide. This is just 5 years after the World Bank declared that by 2023, here we are, abject poverty would be wiped out globally. Now we're going backwards. So the feudal system seems to be returning as the globalists and the World Economic Forum want to control everything, every aspect of our lives during this period they've dubbed the Great Reset. Last time this happened was in the Middle Ages, and it ended with a great conflict and the birth of the middle class in Europe. Now, in conclusion, we're stewards of a planet and a town dominated and dependent on the health of its oceans. All the years, folks before us, like yourself, Councilman Brennan, fought to clean them up from the dumping, the drilling, the plastics problem, from large bore two-stroke engines, fertilizer runoff, etc. And now they want to do this when we finally had the world believing the oceans were sacred. Come on. I recommend to the mayor and council what one Belmar resident recommended to me, and that's Mark Stewart. that there be a proposed amendment to the Endangered Species Act as well as the Marine Mammal Protection Act. I urge the mayor and council to consider pushing this forward in the future to avoid the further industrialization and corporatization of our oceans. Maybe after the state Democrats descend upon Belmar this coming Sunday for the Lake Como St. Patrick's Day Parade, maybe after that, and they all leave, we can think about this a little deeper and investigate a little deeper. Because nothing's gonna prove that the sonar is killing the whales from the wind farms, but the wind farms are a bad idea in the long run for our area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Gene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. I'll forget the microphone. Gene Kramer, Fourth Avenue. I appreciate the comments by a gentleman that asked questions about the seafood festival being located down by Silver Lake. And he brought up a good point about assessed value and who's actually paying the freight in this town. I do have the 2022 final assessment numbers from Monmouth County, and our residential Class 2 assessment value is $1,552,000,000. Now compare that to commercial properties. Commercial properties, the assessed value is only $134 million. That's in the noise. So to have commercial properties telling people in residential districts that you should host a seafood festival is like the tail wagging a dog. It's a very good argument as to who's actually paying taxes in this town and the use of the property. Likewise, I consider Silver Lake, I live with an environmental gem. It's surrounded by salt water on 3 sides. The whole watershed, the 300-acre watershed, is completely contained within the borough. We can't blame Wall Township, we can't blame Avon, we can't blame any other town for what goes on at that lake, okay? And by the way, I was very happy to see in the Co-Star today, in the Lake Como section, that Belmar Elementary School is starting up a fishing club within the school. Fishing is very popular, especially I know in Manasquan, and their high school does have a fishing club. Well, I was happy to hear that, they're going to be going down to Silver Lake. This is very important that you get young people involved in that they recognize where the natural resources are. And quite truthfully, I consider Silver Lake to be, we have a lot of tourism in town in here, but I think we're starting to find out a lot of people are coming here for ecotourism. Like these boats that go out and take people on tours for whale watching. And likewise, the fishing and Silver Lake. But let me just say one thing, and this is where I was on the Environmental Commission for about 10 years, and we kept saying that you have to put a limit on this impervious surface. You're going to create a situation where that lake down there just becomes a drainage basin. Now, some things have been over the years that I think were a bad idea. I'm not going to blame the placement or the buildup of the berm. That was primarily material that we had no other place to dispose of. That was dredged from the lake and side cast alongside. And then the idea came up to build a athletic track type of surface. And by the way, don't be fooled by that berm. It does not offer any flood protection whatsoever. The water goes up in the lake, it comes up through the sewers. There's no hydraulic integrity there at all. If I had my way, I would certainly truck all that excess material out of town, but we're not prepared to do that now. Actually, the reason I wanted to mention, the reason I looked into the assessed Monmouth County's tax information was the issue that I had brought up, I guess it was at the last meeting, and it was this chapter 42 with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And I'm just curious, have we found that is there any defect to the town's chapter 42, or is it effective?
Defect in what way?
Well, I'm just asking you, at the last meeting, you said you would review it and get back to mayor and council.
I have to apologize. I did not do that work, and I have not discussed that with the mayor and council, so I apologize to you for that.
Okay. Let me just, the reason I looked up assessed values of properties, and I'm only interested on this issue, just with residential properties. I looked up the final for 2022 Class 2 properties, the residential, the assessed value, and also 2020, they're all finalized, the Class 2 assessed value for residential properties. And over the 2-year period, the assessed value had gone up over $34 million. Of course, that's no surprise, I don't think, to any of us. Any street that you drive down in Belmar, you see a new house, one getting demolished, one getting built, and of course the assessed value, unless you've developed your own property, you benefit from that because it helps stabilize your taxes. You have the cost of running the town divided by a bigger tax base. In any case, there was over that 2-year period, there was a $34 million increase in the assessed value of residential properties. So I multiplied that by the rate that Chapter 42 specifies for residential properties that you have to make a payment into for the Affordable Housing Development Trust Fund, okay? And 1.5% for 2 years works out to be $513,000. Now that's a very conservative number. The 1.5% is the base. If development included D-type variances, that 1.5% can go up, I believe, to 5 or 6%. And that's how this business of upholding the master plan is supported by this ordinance. In other words, there's only one thing that developers understand, and we all know what that is. That's money. If they have to add 6% or come up with 6%, you know, to put 24 condominiums in a single-family residential neighborhood, they may think twice about it and perhaps be persuaded that, you know, just building what the master plan allows. In any case, that is $513,000 for 2 years is very conservative. Actually, so, but in any case, let's just look at it this way. This Affordable Housing Trust Fund that the town is to establish, we could probably count on at least $250,000 per year that fund would appreciate. I would appreciate, though, the borough attorney taking a look and see whether you see any defects in this. Because unless there is a defect, the effective date was back in August of 2019. Once this is put in place with the tax assessor, I'm sure the calculation of these fees would be very easy. However, it's the work on the front end where you do have some grandfathering, people that had building permits before the effective date of the ordinance, or they had zoning or planning board approval, they're grandfathered and don't have to pay. But it's going to take some time to do that, and it's no different than the sidewalk assessment program that we had in town here a couple of years ago. So, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to, next we have Resolution 2023-71. This is a resolution authorizing the Borough Council to go into executive session, whereas it has been determined by the Borough Council that it's necessary to discuss the following specific matter at its regular meeting of February 28, 2023, in the absence of the public, which is pending or anticipated litigation and the attorney-client privilege communications related thereto. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act permits the Borough Council to exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting during which such matters are discussed. Now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council as follows. The Borough Council shall forthwith recess into a private executive session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the above referenced matters. 2, that the scope of the aforesaid executive session shall be limited to the above matters as stated. 3, that those matters discussed in executive session shall remain confidential until such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists as determined by the borough attorney. That minutes of the closed session shall be taken by the clerk of the Borough of Belmar and kept free from public view until such time that the need for confidentiality no longer exists as determined by the board attorney, and that the regular meeting of the Borough Council shall resume after the private executive session, at which time the Borough Council may take action in reference to the topic discussed. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rondinaro?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
So we're back in public session, and Mr. No, I meant back open to the public. And Mr. McGill is going to read a resolution.
Okay, yeah, while we're in executive session, as you understand, I had the ability to discuss the borough's position in reference to its affordable housing obligation and the need to bring the borough's proposal before the court for hopefully to obtain certification. So in that regard, I'd like to read a resolution to appoint counsel to prosecute a declaratory judgment action on behalf of the borough. And that's the process by which the borough would take the matter before the court, which, since the demise of COA, is what towns must do. So I'll just read this resolution. Resolution number 2023-72, resolution of the Borough of Belmar, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, appointing legal counsel and authorizing the filing of a declaratory judgment action, whereas the Borough of Belmar has previously prepared a plan that was submitted to the Council on Affordable Housing to meet the borough's third-round fair share housing obligation, and whereas the rules promulgated by the Council on Affordable Housing in reference to the third-round rules under which the borough prepared said plan were invalidated by the New Jersey Supreme Court before the Council on Affordable Housing acted on the borough's submission, and whereas the New Jersey Supreme Court ultimately stripped the Council on Affordable Housing of its power in the affordable housing process and transferred the enforcement of the Fair Housing Act and the Mount Laurel Doctrine to the New Jersey Superior Court, and whereas the Borough of Belmar has a constitutional obligation to provide realistic opportunity for the construction of its fair share of the region's low and moderate income housing, and whereas the legal process to obtain the equivalent of a substantive certification of the borough's plan to meet its obligation requires that a declaratory action be filed with the Superior Court of the State of New Jersey. And whereas the law firm of McManaman, Scotland and Bauman is currently under contract with the borough to provide legal services and has expertise in the area of affordable housing compliance, and whereas the council of the borough of Belmar finds that it's in the best interest of the borough and its residents to commence such an action, now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Belmar as follows. 1, that the law firm of McManaman, Scotland, and Bauman shall be appointed counsel and authorized to forthwith file the necessary paperwork with the New Jersey Superior Court and prosecute the action to obtain for the borough all appropriate approvals, protections, and relief as may be warranted in reference to providing its fair share housing obligation. Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's the complete reading of the resolution.
Do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rondinero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Do you want to, we have to open it to public?
Yeah, I would open it to the public if anybody had any comments.
Does anyone from the public have any comments on the resolution? No?
Mr. Kramer.
All right, we have a motion to close that public session and adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'm done.